Now, speculation about who could be in or out is reaching fever pitch as President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to announce his new cabinet. He's expected to announce new ministers and deputies around his inauguration next weekend. To discuss, we're joined by political analyst Ongama Mtimka from our studio in Port Elizabeth in the Eastern Cape. Ongama, welcome to you. First off, do you agree that this will be the most closely watched, possibly the most important decision of his next full term as president?
It's going to be, Francis, it's going to be the most important one, and I think he has a window of opportunity between now until late this year where he needs to actually show to South Africans that he has been committed to the new dawn that he has promised, and he is now ready to make appointments that are affirming that commitment. He couldn't do so before because there were a number of ANC processes which could weaken him or which he could see a backlash in. But now that you don't have national ANC processes such as a conference or a list process that's coming up, he's got a window of opportunity before another impactful ANC process at a national level comes in the campaigning for the National General Council next year. So he's got a window of opportunity, and I think he must use it. If he fails to use this opportunity, then we can come to the conclusion that all along it was not necessarily the political stalemate that held him hamstrung within the ANC from making the right decisions at a cabinet level, but rather his own being beholden to the powerful interests within the party.
So you're saying he should put the country first and choose the best. However, if he doesn't appease some of his enemies, there's a strong faction against him, it seems, he could possibly face ousting, could he not? Is that not a hard choice that he has to make?
It's a hard choice, yet it's a simple one, Francis. My sense is that Ramaphosa needs to come to realize that all those in history who come in to do a cleanup exercise, generally they have one guaranteed exit, a betrayal or the worst that happens. Now he needs to take the choice, reading the historic moment that South Africa finds itself in. Does he want to be remembered as yet another lame duck president, or does he want to be remembered as a reformist? If he wants to be remembered as a reformist, he may need to come to terms with the fact that one term is enough, and throughout history we've seen to become a person who leads a great turnaround, you don't need many years in the presidency in order for you to make a great impact. And if in fact you elevate country duty and the historic moment beyond your own sustainability, you then seamlessly make what is the right thing. Sometimes you may attract betrayal, but the greater good becomes longer lasting than individual self-sustenance in a particular position. So he's got to make that choice. The reality that he may be betrayed at any one time come next year or even in the next ANC conference is there, but he's got a window of opportunity now to act, because he can make those strategic actions and bold actions without an immediate backlash. What we may likely see, though, is that Parliament might be, in the absence of a soon coming a critical moment within the ANC, Parliament might just be the stage in which most party political battles are won. Yeah. For the second time in South Africa, it was tried during the Zuma years, but it didn't yield to results that are fruitful. But what Ramaphosa may accept now is that he's got a more favorable opposition grouping than his detractors within the ANC.
Let's talk about what this means in terms of names, people possibly in or out, starting with the Deputy President, David Mabuza. What do you make of the Sunday Times story that he could be a surprise omission from the cabinet?
Yeah, so that would be him taking the message that he's got to act in the best interest of the country to the latter. If he says, and he may also not give him the deputy president position, but keep him in cabinet, maybe in the office of the presidency, because some of the scandals that he has been alleged about him have not necessarily been proven or come out with sufficient evidence which raises enough a benefit of doubt. Indeed, some of them are chilling details that have come out about the deputy president, but I think he's got leeway to keep him in the presidency, to keep him in a strategic cabinet position. If he doesn't include him at all, along with every other name that has been raised by the Integrity or Commission of the ANC, then it would be a clear sign that he's committed to the cause of renewal.
There is speculation, though, that it could be David Mabuza's choice to stay out of cabinet and go to Luthuli House. Then could you possibly land up with two centers of power, maybe even at odds with one another?
In fact, Francis, I think he may need, if Mabuza remains strongly in his camp, he may need strong people within his camp that remain at Luthuli House, because Luthuli House for him currently, if we see the split in the cabinet, is one of the thorns in the flesh. So he does need, in the same way that the communications unit within Luthuli House was boosted by both people who are pro Ace Magashule, who's seen to be representing the Fight Back plan, and people who are pro him. So it would be good for him to actually have somebody within his camp who remains there. But the risk would be that if Mabuza tilts in support towards the faction that does not support Cyril Ramaphosa, then it may mean that he's strongly weakened at a party level while he strengthened his hand at a government level.
Indeed, and Mabuza has always been somewhat fluid, many would say, in that regard. Another issue here is the Integrity Commission reportedly says Mabuza should not go to Parliament. Is it healthy then if he goes to Luthuli House and is powerful there? You have people with integrity issues not going to government, but they can lead the ANC that deploys government. It doesn't make sense.
The reality of the matter is that principles and morality, or the rule of law in the ANC, is subject to the balances of power within the party, the power configurations within the party. So it's in fact, I suspect that in the deployments to Parliament, for example, there may be some names which are defended by a powerful section within the ANC, and we may see those names not only within the leadership structures within the ANC, but in Parliament. And that is just the reality of the matter. The ANC does need to invest in actually ensuring that its aspirational values form a critical part of its electoral processes. When it does that, names will not just be voted on by branches. When names come up, they will first have to be qualified in terms of the aspirational values of the party as enshrined in through the eye of the needle and their documents on leadership renewal before they are voted on. As long as the party's electoral processes are still dominated by power configurations within the party and not the aspirational values, then you are always going to have people with questionable integrity at senior levels within the party, and they will be causing problems for those that are deployed in government. In fact, the only reason why there are concerns about two centers of power are when it comes to use of the public person resources. When ANC cadres see ANC office and office of deployment in government as offices of service rather than power, you will not have jostling for control of government decisions, among other things.
So talking about people of questionable integrity, where does this leave the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, also facing serious claims? Like Mabuza, he was part of the Premier League that supported the former President Jacob Zuma.
He remains there for the foreseeable future. One thing I want to highlight as an important dynamic here, Francis, is that the Secretary General faces allegations of corruption, and those allegations for now are still in a book somewhere, and the case which was started against him and the Guptas, or that implicated him, was dropped by the NPA. I hope that the NPA does act on the basis of the strength of the case that is in front of them, not necessarily on the basis of a political imperative. And until that action takes place, then the ANC will obviously continue as is, and it will continue to be a stalemate. But I do suspect that some names, even within the top six, may actually change in their loyalties towards the faction or the camp that is currently governing.
Well, Magashule surely is important for the future of Cyril Ramaphosa, because it seems like he's verging on open verbal warfare with the president. He said at the Sisulu Memorial recently, we cannot defeat white monopoly capital by allowing it to co-opt us. Is that not sub-speeching President Cyril Ramaphosa?
It is, and we'll remember that this is how they have attempted to frame him when they were decampaigning him leading up to the Nazareth conference. And indeed, the locus of power for the so-called fight back grouping within the ANC is in that Secretary General's office. So something has to be done there, and I don't think it's actually going to be an ANC process. Remember that it's a constitutional ambiguity for the ANC to deal with one of its leaders outside of a conference. I think, though, that if the case that is before the NPA, there's some action there, the NEC may need to delve into uncharted terrain from a constitutional point of view and provide a solution there. And that could be a factor, actually, within the next 15 months. What the president and his allies should guard against is to put pressure on the NPA to act on the basis of political imperatives rather than on the strength of the cases that they have. The temptation is going to be there, and it's going to be strong, because Magashule is coming across as actually putting the challenge to the president, and in fact appears as very restless. And I think part of what makes him to agitate for this hostility is because maybe they want to foster some compromises, which my assumption is that they assume that the legal processes are actually at the control of the president, and I hope they are going to be wrong there. Otherwise, we may see a situation where Shamila Batoyi is actually being frustrated if the political interference or if the president or anybody else for that matter is compelled to intervene accused in their operations.
Yeah, age-old sort of political targeting. Let's talk quickly about some current controversial members of cabinet. Malusi Gigaba has gone, but Tabile Dlamini also found to have misled the courts. Nomvula Mokonyane implicated in corruption. Are they all out?
I hope none of them returned to Parliament, because with them there were adverse findings that were made both by the public protector in one instance as well as the courts of law in South Africa. And if they continue to appoint them to strategic positions, it would be highly contemptuous of our rule of law and the legal institutions in the country.
Tito Mboweni, the finance cluster is so important. Will he stay? Will Pravin Gordhan stay? Public enterprises huge as well, given that Eskom is our biggest financial risk at the moment.
I don't know if the president should be limited to both of those names. I think that we in South Africa, we're at a time now where, in fact, appointments can be made in the Ministry of Finance by President Cyril Ramaphosa, because generally he's believed and his intentions are not questioned in terms of what he's wanting to do with the Treasury. What was wrong during the Zuma years was that we knew that the underlying political moves and the reshufflings were happening pursuant to weakening the Treasury. I don't think Ramaphosa comes with that baggage, and I think that his options should be beyond both of those names. If he returns some of them back into the Ministry of Finance, perhaps to Tomboweni, but I think that we need to transcend the limitations in terms of specific personalities, lest we be trapped into other, personality cults. And I think while markets should influence ANC decisions, it should not be to the extent that the markets dictate appointments in South Africa. No interest group in the country should actually have too much power over the presidency.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Political analyst Ongama Mtimka. All will be revealed next weekend. Lots of guesses between then and now. We take a short break. I'll be back with lots more.